The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Good morning, traders. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome out to the Tradespoon live trading room, stocks and options. My name is Scott. I'm filling in for Vlad. He asked if I could step in, and I said, absolutely. Would never miss a chance. Good morning, John. Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Raymond. Good morning, PK. Good to see you all. For those who don't know, I'm the head trading coach here at Tradespoon. I've been trading for a while, teaching for a while, and these are the disclosures. Bottom line, be careful out there. Make sure you are controlling every trade you take, and life will be okay. All right. So interesting morning already. I wake up, make some coffee, and futures look pretty good, up 0.25%. And then I came, sat down, and we gave it all back, and they're now down in the negative, minus 0.16 for the S&P, 0.3 for the Dow. NASDAQ is flat, Russell down 0.4, oil's down almost 1, gold 0.75. And you can see the headline, stock futures pop amid debt ceiling debate. The dog and pony show continues, as it always does. I'm not really, have they given us a deadline? I know that there's like those estimates of like, here's where we'll run out of money. But I don't know if there's like a hard and fast line in the sand of any kind yet, or if it's still just kind of up in the air. Because if it's up in the air, or if there's a line in the sand and it's still down the road, expect it to continue, right? Expect it to all of a sudden be like, nope, we're not gonna bend, we're not gonna yield. Just a scare tactic. That's it, Chet, right? They both want to pander to their bases of how they're not going to budge, and eventually we'll get there. Walmart had pretty good earnings, though. That's for a big box. That's there's been concern after Yellen saying June 1st. Dennis said, okay. John said, I read something for June 15th. So something in June. June 1st is 2 weeks. June 15th is more like 4. Somewhere in that, I would imagine. That sounds about right. Yeah, so Home Depot had a miss. Target was kind of mixed. They met expectations. They had a little bit of a but for their guidance, right? But next year there's some concern. Walmart came pretty strong, raised outlook, topped expectations. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alibaba misses, slowest rate of growth since its IPO. Yeah, I read something that said that China is not coming back very quickly. Interestingly, the painful $1 trillion. Let's see, is there anything else we're missing for news? Demand huge for Tesla's ugly Cybertruck. I don't feel like there needs to be a personal attack on the truck. I think it's magnificent and have already placed my deposit. Kabuki Theater again. Bill said, yeah. No, I haven't heard anything about like an actual date. 2024, maybe is when they start. I'm sure there's many more ahead of me in line. That's about it. Tell me if I'm missing something. Let's look at the economic calendar. I didn't see, what did the jobless claims come in at? Have they updated here on Market Watch? No. If someone finds the jobless number, I didn't see it. Tell me what the number is. I'm curious. Today we've got some Fed speak, existing home sales. Tomorrow, Fed speak. Not much there. Good morning, Faust. Good to see you. Yeah, not much. Going into next week, nothing Monday, nothing really Tuesday. Minutes from the Fed's May meeting, so maybe giving us insight into what the mid-June meeting is going to bring. I think that the consensus is now moving towards a pause. I think it makes sense. I mean, you're only doing quarters of a point. Pause, let the market get a little footing and see if it continues moving the direction you were looking for. Thursday GDP. Friday's got a bunch of data. So Friday we've got some durable good orders, income spending, some PCE pricing numbers for inflationary data. That'll be a big one. That'll be a big one for sure. Okay. Let's see. Market's opening in about 6.5 minutes. Let's see how the model sees it. Stella says still neutral. That makes sense. And I would say, I defined myself as the bullish end of neutral. I would say Stella is too, right? So, possibly seeing a pullback. That's not a good color. Let's see. Possibly a pullback. I mean, overall sideways, but maybe sideways to slightly bullish. I'm certainly, if anything, still on the lookout for bullish trades. Let's take a look at QQQ. And just like me, Stella sees the NASDAQ as the stronger, the leading component of the markets from a broad market standpoint. So possibly looking for a brief pullback followed by a bullish move. The NASDAQ has been leading. It seems to be continuing to lead. So still there. Thank you, Chet. The number of first-time claims for weekly jobless benefits fell last week to 242, down from 264 and below. I believe expectations were 255. So last week when we got to 264, because I kind of throw 250 out as like my watermark number, right? Just to have a watermark number. And I say, if it's under 250, there's nothing there. If it's over 250, then I start to pay attention. But even when I say over 250, I'm thinking more like, 275, 280, not like 265, barely over. And I need to see multiple weeks in a row where it's like 270, 280, 275. And you're like, okay, the next monthly non-farm payrolls report comes out is likely to then have a net loss in jobs, a negative number. And if we start seeing negative numbers, i.e. losing jobs, then we see unemployment rising, and that's when we start to say, woo, okay. Remember, the Fed said in the midst of their interest rate hikes that they would expect and see as acceptable unemployment jump from 3.5 to 5.5, right? 2%. And that's, that equates to about 3 million jobs, give or take. So, we don't have any net loss of jobs yet, but certainly, it's just kind of looming out there that the Fed even talked about that. But as of now, still good. And that number back down to 242, still good. Good morning, Bob. Good to see you. The Russell, that's been kind of the laggard. I'm always a bit skeptic in my bullishness because there's been no interest whatsoever in small caps. At least it's not showing downward anymore. It's moved into a neutral posture. But certainly for me, I would much rather see there be an interest, right, in the small caps that indicate that there's a higher appetite for risk across the board in the market. Not there as of now. Let's see the Dow. The Dow, we'd like to see sideways, possibly in a slightly lagging position, and you can see it has moved into that lagging position. So less interest in the Dow means likely the ability to have more interest in the more ambitious, we'll say. I don't want to say aggressive necessarily. The more ambitious. Tech stocks are going to move at a faster rate with more momentum than blue chip stocks. There it is. All right. I don't remember if we looked at this yesterday or not. But again, whenever people say, why do people say sell in May and go away? And you can see this is why, right? This is, basically the end of April through the beginning of July. And what is maybe you could even technically, say that this falls into that range, as does this, right? You do still catch the last bullish, and we did catch some of that back here. And then we turned sideways now. And yeah, right? That happens frequently enough that it ends up looking like this. So, is there a concern? Yeah, and we actually put on a time trade, just letting it just sit. It's just sitting there, not doing much of anything. Okay. Let's go take a quick peek at the futures before we open. Actually, no, one more thing. So this was pretty bullish yesterday, right? I mean, this was very bullish. We popped up and it looked like we were going to roll over, and then it just sort of it came with volume. That was above average volume. Now, some people might be like, well, breakout volume is supposed to be 150%. Number one, you rarely see 150% volume on SPY. And when you do, it tends to be around selling and, bottoming areas. You can see there, maybe we did. I don't even think these got close. Maybe they did. Let's see if I can eyeball it. 120, average is 80. That's pretty close. Those, the same thing, though. It's the selling days, the panic days. And those there's the opening bell. Those aren't even breakout days. Those are like the final drop days. Okay, so we opened basically flat. We did put in a higher low, but we still have a very well established resistance level that we're bumping up against. Let me just see. The VIX was what I've been watching, and the VIX has been a bit mixed. It rolled back over the other way. There are times where it's a little bit more ambiguous, right? But this clearly established a higher low, and then it just fell apart, and it just went right back. So as of right now, that's what I'm trading off of. Now, here's the thing. If it stabilizes and then turns, there's really not much I can do. Like, is the VIX going to sometimes give me a little bit of a whipsaw. Yeah. If it turns again, I'm gonna reposition. Now, some people kept all their hedges. We had this conversation yesterday, and I said I'm gonna relinquish some hedges, and did, but kept some. And other people said I'm gonna keep all of mine. Yeah, great. Just be thoughtful, right? Have a plan with your hedges. If this thing were to turn around, would I immediately buy new ones and be fine with it? Yeah, because everything that I'm doing right now is in a VIX that's around 17. Like, well, that's the great thing about this is when we're doing it early, if you wait till the VIX is at even 22, 23, 24, that would be you're late to the game and the options have already inflated. So if I'm re-hedging at 17, yeah, I'm going to be fine with that. And that's what I'm going to be looking for today going into tomorrow. Do we break this low now? That's the final. Like when we break a low, that's the final for me where I say, okay, I'm done with my hedge. But if it turns back around, then in that situation, I'm going to be glad I held some. Whoever held more than me is going to be glad they held more. And then I'm going to add additional because it still has the look of potential escalation. Okay. And I know Vlad is still like weigh in with me. Is Vlad still a little bit leaning bearish overall? What's been his posture and what types of trades have you guys been putting on with him? Total gloom coming, feeling nastiness coming. It could be. Here's the thing. For me, in the way that I posture the market, neutral, leaning, bearish, Ted said. A lot is bearish. Raymond says, yeah, a little bit more. My posture will change pretty quickly. If you've watched the video where I kind of go through this formalized process where I'm looking at long-term trends, short-term trends, I'm looking at volume, I'm looking at major market comparison, looking at the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, the Russell, I'm looking at sector rotation, seeing where the money flow is, I'm looking at the VIX. And each component I assess to kind of say, okay, just this component, just this aspect of it, how does it look? Bullish, bearish, neutral. I score it. And then I put it all together and I have a composite score. And it organizes things so very well for me. And it's very deliberate in the way that it's built so that if there's a shift in the market, I will either A, see signs of it developing. I may not know what it is. That's how I've trained myself around it. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, this is happening. It's subtle. It may reflect things that are happening with institutions who know things that no one else knows. By the time everybody knows what's going on, it's too late. You're too late, right? You need to have been positioned for it already and taking actions in front of it. That's my point. Bob says he says he's in direct conflict with his own model. If you check in on the 6 months, I mentioned it to him and he agreed. He is in the hard landing camp and the model's in the soft landing camp. Okay, that's fair. That is fair. I'm as of now in the soft landing camp, but my campness is fluid. I can move quickly from one camp to another. Right? I believe there's no bull side or bear side. There's only the right side. Get on the right side and you'll be fine. Okay, let's get into it. So the VIX is flat. The market opened flat. So yeah, well, thank you, Bob. we do our best to prognosticate. So right now, what Carmen's asking, what would that look like to be fluid? Like I said, I'm right at this point. I'm kind of like, okay, I've got still a bit of hedging. I asked the question yesterday. I'm not going to bother again. I know that a good number of you are hedged. And it's like, ooh, we just have to, we're hanging on to a titch of it. It's right at this, we're right at the previous low. When we look at the market, we're right at resistance. We have to break resistance for that VIX to break that low. So there's like a very substantial resistance level here. I mean, I see 2, maybe 3 touches here. There's another touch, and here we are. Substantial resistance, recency and frequency. We're knocking on the door, and that's going to be that's a tough go. Now, does that mean that other stocks can't be going up right now? No. So we may have bullish trades that are still okay. We're still managing, but we are saying that it once the market loses its ability, then it's the outliers, and the outliers can't go for very long. So if I see the market stalling, then I know my bullish trades, I'm going to be much more prone to taking profits, tightening stops. If I bought options and I'm coming into the weekend, which we are, same thing. You better have a very good reason to hold it over the weekend. So I'm also considering the fact that if it doesn't break resistance and bounces down, any one of these times could be the time it gets spooked, right? It could be one of these right here. And even this one, I don't think it quite got 5%, but close. But if I get 5%, there's profit taking with a portion of my hedge trades. 5%, boom, automatic. It's going to lock some gains in. If we don't ever lock gains in with hedging, you'll never actually make money with hedging. And if you constantly lose money with hedging, it's not the right activity. I had that with one time. I actually had an iron condor strategy that had hedging components to it. And at the end of the year, it just didn't do well. And I went back and I looked, and it was actually the hedging. It never actually mattered. And so I took it off. I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. Just do the iron condors, take the losses if they come, and then the rest of the time make the money, and it ended up turning it profitably. So we have to consider the hedge both from a total perspective, but then you have to isolate it. At the end of a year, if you take all of your hedges and you look at the expectancy, you look at the profitability for just your hedges, it should be positive. Or if it's neutral to slightly down, then the rest of the portfolio should be very positive, right? So that you can quantify and say, I lost 3% on my hedges, but I made 25% on my portfolio or on my trading activities. Great, I could live with that. It may have just been that the hedges help, keep you honest and balanced and able to execute everything else that you're doing. Great, then that's fine. I could live with that. But if at the end of it, it's down, you really didn't benefit from it, then either change how you do it or don't do it anymore. Let's get to the watch list. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I still think we're going to see trade setups here because, well, let's just go through it and see. Alcoa, I watch it as a material stock. To me, it's part of why I believe the Fed's not going to raise rates. It's helps to see the inflationary pressures have diminished. The cost of materials has diminished. Apple looks tradable literally today. If it stays like this, that's what I'm looking for from Apple. It went up, made a higher high, it consolidated, it's turning. Now, if at the end of the day we have a sell-off, it's going to come down here. My other concern with Apple is I don't want it to take off without me, right? Which sometimes can happen. So goes down and turns, that might be it. So if Apple has a bullish day, yeah, I think Apple looks like an opportunity. Okay, we saw what the predictions were for the Nasdaq from Stella. Bullish projections. This looks bullish. This looks bullish. That's a signal. chip stocks gave a signal already. If you're trading them, you would have traded this back here, right, on the higher low. You can see that we broke the consolidation, came down, higher low, stochastics turned, and if you look across the board, all of the chip stocks were very similar. There's time before earnings, so I would imagine, and I asked it yesterday, how many people are in chip stocks, and it seemed like a lot had this type of a trade on. That was one that we were looking for and watching set up. So this is not a new trade. This would have been a trade that was taken a few days ago. Like I said, is if the market's hitting resistance, you can clearly see there's a resistance level through here that this might be hitting. That was on a head and shoulders pattern that it recovered from. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, there's profit here. I should be thinking about locking in half of it. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. And then if I carry anything, I carry half through, tightening up the stop, not willing to give much back. And I would imagine it's the same analysis across the board on chip stocks. Amazon. Okay, so Amazon was a tough one. This one was pretty easy to trade. We watched it set up. We said when it turns, it turns. We didn't have a chance to see the trigger together, but that was one that we had been watching. That's one I took. I know others took it. Then it did this one, and I've said this for years. I always struggle with like 1-2 day consolidations, and it gave a turn, but the turn occurred up there. So if you took that one, good on you. I didn't, but it looks, quite favorable. Same thing. You'd be managing that trade. Okay. Boeing just went through that first step. It just broke the consolidation. So now I'm interested again. I haven't been interested in Boeing. Now I'm interested. Interested today? No. Interested when the buyers are done. Maybe it even gets up here to 210. Who knows? Then it comes back down, and then I'm thinking anywhere in a range like this, that's an opportunity to catch the next turn. We see this come down, catch the next turn. We watch it on the model, looking for the momentum, whatever we want to use. And then I'm thinking it's going to make that next run up possibly to that level. Okay. I want to have these. This is not like it's going to be ready tomorrow, next week, maybe, but I like to have these. I like to see them forming well before I even think it's setting up, if that makes sense. BLDR, it's that same kind of a thing, right? Technically, could that be considered a 1 day consolidation with a turn occurring with the market or with the stochastics way overbought, and now it's moving again? Yeah, I same thing. I'll wait for it to do this, and then I'll try to take that trade. That's easier to see and easier to manage, right? CMG. So CMG we talked about, and that just fizzled. That's the signal came in right in there on that, maybe 1 day after my arrow, that first green. And it's gone up a little bit, but just not much at all. Are you supposed to wait for 3 days? No, Bob. I mean, I do feel like 1 and 2 day consolidations are valid. I'm saying I personally struggle. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I like bull flags. I mean, a 1 day consolidation really is difficult. 2 days, I mean, there are times where that's all you get, right? Like right here, 2 days. I mean, technically the third day sideways, but that was the entry was right through there. So I'm just saying, sometimes when you see that, you're expecting it to be more like a 3 to 5 day consolidation, and it's easier to. I think they're easier to trade. That's all. A personal weakness, we'll call it. Nothing happening in oil for me. I think that Costco. If Costco turns, I think there's time. If I have 3 to 4 days, I'll still take it. 3 to 4 days before earnings. So what does that give me? Earnings is 525 after market. So if that thing turns tomorrow, I have that day, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 days next week. So I'm watching that one. I'm watching you, Costco. I like your hot dogs. I like your chickens. You know what they put into their hot dogs? Love. Nothing there for us. Diamonds, nothing there for us. Disney, nothing there. FCX, nothing there for us. FedEx, I don't know. Maybe. If you can see again, we have one of these just like really strong. If it gets there and it pulls back and it gives a higher low, then I think maybe it has what it needs to break out. So there I'm a maybe. Right now it's just like, okay, let's watch it and see what happens. China stocks sideways, not much there. GE gave another signal, but it was one of those. There's the turn. Big candle. So ideally, if you're watching it, you're trying to get in the bottom half of that candle, if you can, right? Early in the day when it first overpowers the previous day's high. It's not moving phenomenally, but this is GE. Like, are you expecting it to move phenomenally? It's GE. Come on. Set expectations appropriately. Gold. So I was thinking gold might stabilize, and now I'm thinking, nah, it's all broken. GLD did it first. GLD today. So here's gold. That one's broken down. Same kind of a thing. I don't know. Every time I'm like, yeah, maybe I would trade the metals now. Then they do something like this, and I'm like, geez, never mind. Today is National I Love Reese's Day. I do love Reese's. Who doesn't love a peanut butter cup? Or those delightful little pieces. IWM, nothing there for us. Jets, okay. I actually think Jets does have something happened, right? We were kind of sideways, then consolidating down, and then Dennis says those with peanut allergies don't love Reese's. That makes sense. You got me. We broke the previous high. We did it with volume, so that's enough for me to regain an interest level. Does that mean I want to trade it today? No, that means I'm going to watch it and I'm going to see, does it keep going any higher? When it pulls back, does it come down and let me get in at, let's say, 18-ish? That next trade, and this thing comes down here, that next trade, that's the one. That's the one that I'm interested in. Bob says, you might be better off. I've been watching this just as a composite of the group. That's probably a good point. I'd maybe want to, although I think this one looks, yeah, it has popped a little more already, hasn't it? So you could go through the whole group: American, Delta, United, Southwest, Alaska, etc., etc. Where were we? MasterCard gave a turn yesterday, right? That was a trade. This one, I think, at this point, you could still probably catch it, and maybe just jump right in with a tight stop on your Heiken Ashi for a momentum trade, right? As I say it, I think that's exactly what I would do: is come in, put a stop at today's Heiken Ashi low, 382.75. I mean, that's still 4.5 points. No, 5.5. 382.75. Yeah, 5.5. But I would be moving the stop every day, hoping I could catch, 4 or 5 days in a row. Is what I'm looking for. Okay. Did I cover GE? I did. Gave a bullish signal a couple of days ago. It's in its bullish pattern. GE never moves like a sprinter. McDonald's. I think McDonald's is still setting up. I think we did discuss a signal on that one, Bob. I don't think we formally put it on where it is in the platform. I like McDonald's still. I would still trade McDonald's. It's a couple of times like pinched, but the sellers have had a lot of opportunity and they really have done hardly anything with it. That's 299. We're at 293. We're 6 points. That's 2%. It's pulled back. Still like it. Meta gave us a signal. We talked about it, I believe, back here on this turn. And it just kind of slowly, and it's like wants to accelerate. It's not going very fast, so I think it's going to have a hard time as it gets closer. For me, I will absolutely sell half of it at 245, and then hope it can break out, but not really expect it at this point. It's making a little bit now. So there you go. Marvell gave us a signal, just like, now that was a big one though, right? And that's what's hard is if you're going to do it, you want to be ready so you can catch it earlier in the day and have more of the trade ahead of you. Looks very much like ADI, like we said. They're all going to be similar. Microsoft. We actually took one on Microsoft yesterday. We got the turn and took it, and that should be up a little bit. We'll keep looking at it. I think we did, didn't we? Yeah, okay. It says we're down. I think that's just lagging a little bit. Netflix. Yeah, so Netflix definitely, we said, gave the signal yesterday. We ended up going the other route to Microsoft. It went up, it consolidated, and it broke out of that flag. Boom. And if you were in yesterday, you caught it, and now it's up 6% more. That's an interesting one. Is there news coming out of that? Well, I'm not saying I didn't already have something on it, John. NVIDIA definitely was one. That's the one that I like. And that's the trade day there. You can see that one looks great. Still time before earnings. Still looks good. We've had our focus on technology for quite a while now. We've had our focus on Apple and Microsoft and chip stocks for quite a while now. This is nothing new. This is just following the money. The rest of it, looking around in communication services have been okay. Looking in consumer, industrial, still trying to figure out if there's going to be enough breadth, right, for this market to sustainably get moving. Oracle. That's been a tough one. It's like I haven't traded Oracle, but I look at it and I'm like, I should have probably, right? But when you look at back here and the signal comes and same kind of thing, just nothing, and then it pops, and then just nothing, and then boop, 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 and you're just like, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. I don't, even if I had taken it, I can't think I would have had the patience to stay with that. That's just self-awareness, Netflix ad tier has nearly 5 million monthly. Yeah, I hear they're doing their crackdown on shared accounts too. Pepsi looks close. We put it on the list recently. It looks close. Been running. taking a pause. Yeah, that's a good pausing point. I like that retracement. So that's moving into a possible triggering position. PHM, not QQQ. So there's still a couple of setups, couple of trades that look good to carry through, and still a reason to think about a hedge. That's the market that we have for me. That's my B water market, right? We got to be fluid. We've got to be ready to adjust. Starbucks just can't figure it out. I feel like SLV, nothing there for me. Semiconductors look strong. We already knew that. SPY still just bumping right up against resistance. Nothing happening. So it'll be an interesting one. We'll see how today finishes. There may be a couple signals that develop. If it sells off, we'll see what happens in that regard. Tomorrow morning, we'll see. UNG, nothing yet, but maybe soon. I'm being patient. The VIX, nothing, just kind of stagnant there today, waiting. It's just like time is frozen. Financials, there's not enough to think they're coming back yet. Same thing with industrials, just watching patiently. Staples looks like it's all of a sudden losing. That was showing good momentum, and now it's like, Target didn't do so well. It's falling out. Jets are doing better, so maybe we're going to start seeing. You can see this is discretionary. Discretionary is looking better. Staples is looking worse. We'll pay note of that, and we'll now be much more likely to entertain bullish trades in the consumer discretionary side of things rather than the staples. So there it is. We've got some. Well, I would imagine you've got some pretty decent looking bullish trades on still right now. There's been setups. There's been triggers. They're moving. There's still setups happening. I still think that there's a couple of bullish trades that could be put on. I've hedged. I've taken some hedge off at a loss, and I'm ready to put a new hedge on. That's where I sit in this jungle of ours as of today. Tomorrow, if we're going to continue to be water, we may make an adjustment. So, join me tomorrow, and we'll go through this again and get ready for the weekend. I feel like we've had a pretty good read on things overall. So I think in that regard, able to keep risk at the right levels, avoid mistakes, book profits when we can. Does PE not mean anything anymore? I mean, I don't know. For some people, it probably means as much as anything, David. But remember that, as a trader, the shifting of the PE comes as, off of a stagnant earnings and then price moving. So more of a fundamental evaluation than a momentum evaluation. I think it means something. If I'm going to look at a fundamental thing, it's probably going to be that. So good to see everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you tomorrow. As always, happy trading.